The Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer has called out Netflix for what he describes as manipulating WWE Raw ratings following the Royal Rumble. Damian Priest qualifies for the men's Elimination Chamber match last night on Smackdown. Charlotte Flair has officially made her decision. She will challenge Tiffany Stratton for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Stratton had a busy evening last night. She retained her Women's Championship against Nia Jax via disqualification, and also seemingly is set to team up with WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus at Elimination Chamber. Kevin Owens tells Sami Zayn to come and find me at Elimination Chamber in Toronto. Naomi, she's qualified for the Women's Elimination Chamber match, but we now possibly have more details on who attacked Bianca Belair's former Women's Tag Team Championship partner, Jade Cargill. Vic Joseph fills in for an absent Joe Tessitore on SmackDown. The Wyatt Sicks possibly have their eyes set on Alexa Bliss. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu's tensions continued last night. R-Truth competes in his first singles match on SmackDown since 2019 against Carmelo Hayes, and several matches and segments have been confirmed for SmackDown next week. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with Dave Meltzer calling out Netflix for what he describes as manipulating the ratings for Monday Night Raw following the Royal Rumble Premium Live event. Now, one of the most significant changes in professional wrestling that 2025 has brought is the shift in the television ratings discussion. WWE Raw officially began streaming live on Netflix at the beginning of the year, and though viewership numbers are still available, things aren't as clear as they used to be. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer shared his frustration regarding Netflix reporting of viewership for the February 3rd edition of Raw. Meltzer referred to the platform's officially released numbers for the episode as a sleight of hand. Though the numbers from Netflix claim 3.1 million people around the world watched the episode, the podcast host stated that the company uses an unusual method of counting. Rather than tracking individual views, Netflix takes the total amount of hours the content is viewed in a week and divides it by the hour length of that content. However, for Raw, the company uses the shorter replay runtime rather than the live broadcast, resulting in an artificially inflated number. Quote, they're at about 1.2 million viewers in the United States for the show after the Royal Rumble. Last year, they were at 1.9 million, Meltzer continued. That's a big drop. Along with that, the show experienced a 58.6% drop in viewership since the first episode of Raw to stream live on Netflix. Meltzer noted that the episode of Raw immediately following the Royal Rumble is typically one of the promotion's biggest of the year, but it brought in even fewer viewers than last week's show. Quote, I expected them to be way up, day after the Rumble, Meltzer continued. Woke up, saw the number, and it's like, okay, they're up, and like 2 seconds later I'm looking at this going like, oh my god, they're manipulating the numbers. Now, this was heavily controversial yesterday on social media, and Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics has opened up as to his opinion on what Meltzer is trying to say. Now, he said there's been some to be expected wrestling TV viewership data controversy about the numbers Netflix has listed in its Tudum Top 10 rankings for Monday Night Raw, which so far have included each episode of the show since its move to streaming in January. Netflix reportedly informed WrestleNomics this week that the streamer has used the same methodology each week to determine the views data for Raw that we see in the Tudum rankings. Different methodologies have not been used for different episodes of Raw, Netflix have told WrestleNomics. According to a table Netflix shared with WrestleNomics, live viewing for Raw is measured differently than delayed viewing for Raw because of different run times that a given episode of Raw has depending on when you watch it. Netflix revealed data for the 5th episode of Raw on its platform this past week as part of its standard top 10 rankings release, so we now have data through the February 3rd episode. Questions have been raised about the methodology used to measure Raw because it's become clear that the math doesn't check out for Raw in the same way that it does for other Netflix content in the rankings. Now, Brandon Thurston has explained what he means by that. In addition to global views, Netflix also lists the hours viewed for each program in the top 10, as well as the runtime, which can be seen in the top 10 rankings. Netflix's Tudum top 10 rankings for English language platforms, or programs rather, for the week ending February 9th, 2025. Views, a worldwide measurement, as Netflix is available throughout much of the world, seems to be simply a result of multiplying hours viewed by runtime. Therefore, for example, if you take the leading show for the week, The Night Agent Season 2, and divide its hours viewed, that being 64,400,000 by its runtime, 8 hours 36 minutes or 8.6 hours, when you round the result to the nearest 100,000, you get 7.5 million global views. Just like Netflix's chart shows, great, that checks out. And also, if you run that check against every other show on the chart, it checks out just fine. Also, except for Monday Night Raw. If you do the same check on the data shown for the February 3rd episode of Raw, 6.1 million divided by 1 hour 55 minutes, again, rounded to the nearest 100,000, you don't get the 3.1 million Netflix list above. Instead, you get a slightly higher value, 3.2 million. That's a 3% difference. Not nothing, but also not huge. Is that a big deal or not? But wait, if you go back and check prior episodes of Raw, the difference has been more significant. Fortunately, Netflix allows you to download a spreadsheet of the full history of their weekly top 10 Tudum data. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can check it out. So you can look at all of the episodes of Raw so far. Netflix's top 10 TV shows for the first 5 weeks of 2025, exported into a spreadsheet that Brandon Thurston did, can be found on his Patreon. As you can see, in the spreadsheet, if you do read it, the differences for Raw in the earlier weeks were more extreme, discrepancies that in most cases actually give you lower results for views than what Netflix listed. Except in the case of the post-Royal Rumble episode of Raw. For that episode, it appears Netflix listed a value 16% higher than the math suggests, 2.5 million instead of Netflix's 2.9 million. What else stands out is that the Royal Rumble, which streamed on Netflix internationally and had only been available for 2 days when its views were published, shows no difference between the straightforward calculation and Netflix's reported number, 2.1 million for both. This contrasts with each Raw figure, which reflects a full 7-day window. A representative for Netflix explained to WrestleNomics, quote, "This is a matter of the runtime changing live versus SVOD, referring to viewing on demand sometime after Raw has aired live. That might also help explain why there was no discrepancy for the Rumble, which had viewing displayed for 2 days instead of 7. Quote, for live titles, we show the latest runtime on our top 10. As example, the January 6th premiere is listed as 2.4 hours long on Tudum and the product today, but was even longer live because of ads," the representative added. "When calculating views, we implement a blended views approach, which calculates views for each individual cut with its own runtime, and then takes the sum total illustrated in examples. Maybe there's a way to deduce based on the discrepancy how much live versus delayed viewing there was on a given episode, but that hasn't been figured out just yet." So what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you think that WWE and Netflix are manipulating the Raw ratings and viewership numbers to make it look more favorable? Or is it a case of you don't really care anyway? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Now, Damian Priest, he's on his way to the men's Elimination Chamber match in Toronto, thanks in part to undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes, who came out to fend off an interfering Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. The Smackdown main event saw Priest face off against Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman. Priest and Fatu brawled for the first portion of the match after sending Strowman out of the ring. When Fatu and Priest were on the rope, Strowman picked them both up and powerbombed Fatu and sent Priest flying. That's when Strowman gained momentum and took Fatu outside of the ring and hit him with a chokeslam on the announce desk. Fatu quickly recovered and hit Strowman with multiple hip attacks in the corner, a move that took Strowman out at Saturday night's main event, and even tried to hit one with a chair wrapped around Strowman's neck. Strowman put the chair around Fatu's head and got him in the corner, but Sikoa interfered and hit a Samoan spike onto Strowman. Fatu got to the top rope and hit a moonsault but couldn't capitalize and pin Strowman. Rhodes' music hit and he ran down to go after Sikoa, and Tonga followed to take on Rhodes. Sikoa accidentally hit Tonga with a Samoan spike, which distracted Fatu, who looked to square up to Sikoa outside of the ring. They were both taken out by Priest, and Rhodes hit a crossroads to Sikoa. Back in the ring, Priest got Strowman up for a South of Heaven and pinned him for the victory. Priest moves on to face Drew McIntyre, John Cena, CM Punk, Logan Paul, and one competitor yet to be determined in the Chamber match. The winner will go on to face Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship at WrestleMania 41. Speaking of WrestleMania 41, we now know who Charlotte Flair is going to face. The Queen has made her decree. At WrestleMania 41, it will be Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. The record-setting two-time Royal Rumble winner took to the microphone following Stratton's title defense against Nia Jax on Friday's episode of Smackdown, and made her decision known as in a mocking, derisive manner. After Stratton was sufficiently flattened by the work of Jax, Candice LeRae, and a steel chair, Flair slunk out from the backstage area to prop open the chair that had just been laid to waste on Stratton's back. Stratton writhed in pain as Flair leaned in, beckoning her to awake in a ridiculing sing-song tone. When Stratton did not respond to her taunts, Flair leaned in to bark to the downed women's champion. "The Queen chooses you," Flair snapped. "I'll see you at WrestleMania." Flair tossed her microphone just by Stratton's head, barely missing her face, and ended the segment by gazing upon the WrestleMania sign. Flair and Stratton are now due to meet in Las Vegas to compete for the WWE Women's Championship in a match that commentator Vic Joseph called the match the world has been wanting. Now, it was a very busy night for Tiffany Stratton, to say the least. As I mentioned, she did defend her Women's Championship. She retained her title against Nia Jax via disqualification after Candice LeRae got involved. With Charlotte Flair watching backstage, Jax was in control of the early stages of the match. Stratton eventually reversed her fortunes when she hit a spine buster and a drop kick. All that time being in Jax's shadow paid off as Stratton knew how to counter her offense. Later in the match, Stratton hit a picture-perfect moonsault followed by a swanton bomb. After connecting with another spine buster, she was getting ready for the prettiest moonsault ever when LeRae tripped her in the air, allowing Stratton to retain. After the match, Jax hit an annihilator while LeRae grabbed a chair. As Jax was setting up, Trish Stratus leapt over the barricade to attack LeRae. She tripped Jax, but Jax was able to splash her in the corner. As officials tried to break the melee up, Jax did a leg drop to Stratton. Afterwards, Jax and LeRae left the champion laid out in the ring. Now, this has led possibly to a big match set to take place at Elimination Chamber. Trish Stratus is set to return to the ring at Elimination Chamber after agreeing to team up with Tiffany Stratton during Smackdown. The WWE Hall of Famer came to the Women's Champion's rescue earlier in the night, with Candice LeRae attacking the champion during her defense against Nia Jax. The attack caused a disqualification and thus cost Jax the title, prompting her to unleash further pain to Stratton post-match. Stratus got involved, only to get taken out herself. Charlotte Flair, as I mentioned, then emerged and said she would be challenging Stratton for the title at WrestleMania 41 per her Royal Rumble victory. Stratus and Stratton appeared in a backstage segment later on, agreeing to team together in Toronto against Jax and LeRae. Stratus' pending hometown return follows her cameo in the Women's Royal Rumble in January, her first return to the ring since losing to Becky Lynch in a steel cage match at Payback in September of 2023. It'll be her first tag team match since losing the Women's Tag Team Championship with Becky Lynch, having stood in that night for Lita and betraying Lynch after the loss. Now, Kevin Owens, possibly, is he going to be wrestling Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber? Well, there's going to be something happening, we know that for sure. Former friends Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going back to both where their friendship and feud started, in their home country of Canada, when WWE travels to Toronto in 2 weeks for its Elimination Chamber event. Now, it's not yet clear if they'll meet in the ring for a match, but the pair cut competing video promos on social media that aired on Smackdown, and Owens told Zayn to find him at the Premium Live event. The call-out comes after Owens hit Zayn with a package piledriver to end Raw last week after Zayn was defeated by CM Punk for a spot in the Elimination Chamber match. Owens was angry because Zayn didn't help him defeat undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble in a championship ladder match. But when Owens was down and bloodied, Zayn was ringside checking on his friend, but he didn't prevent Rhodes from climbing the ladder to win the bout. Zayn's promo was played first on SmackDown as he updated fans about how rough his neck was feeling after the package piledriver. He said he has nerve damage and is seeing specialists, and he's not sure when he'll be cleared, but when he is, he and Owens are going to fight again. Owens' emotional promo followed later in the night, and he expressed pain over how many times he had been stabbed in the back in the last few months. He said if Zayn wants to go again, they'll do it. That's when he mentioned Elimination Chamber and said it didn't matter if Zayn was cleared or not, to come and find him, and Owens will show Zayn what real pain is. Now, Naomi, she's also on her way to the Elimination Chamber. Naomi scored a victory over the Women's United States Champion Chelsea Green to qualify for the Elimination Chamber during SmackDown, following the qualification of Naomi's Women's Tag Team Championship partner Bianca Belair, as well as Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, and Bayley. Friday saw a champion versus champion clash between the global superstar and the hot mess for the fifth and penultimate slot. Those fighting in the chamber match will secure a shot at the title Royal Rumble winner Charlotte Flair doesn't pursue, that being the Women's Women's World Championship of Rhea Ripley. The bout itself started with Naomi at the advantage, making 2 attempted roll-ups and sending Green into the arms of Piper Niven on the outside. Green fought back through yet another roll-up attempt before connecting with swinging hands, driving her head into the mat before connecting with an enziguri. She sat Naomi on the top rope, open palm slapping her across the face. Naomi fought out and landed a crossbody from the ropes to Green, following up with a roundhouse kick and a running leg drop. They then exchanged head kicks before Naomi attempted a split-legged moonsault to wrap things up. Green avoided it, landing her own leg drop for a pin attempt, which Naomi reversed into a pin for her own near fall. Green got the better of the following exchange and sought to land the unprettier, but Naomi had it scouted, landing a facebuster followed by the split-legged moonsault for the pinfall victory. The 6th and final spot in the Women's Elimination Chamber match will be determined on Monday's edition of Raw between Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Now, speaking of the Women's Tag Team Champions, more details as to who took out Jade Cargill. On the November 22nd episode of WWE Smackdown, Jade Cargill was seen laid out on top of a smashed vehicle after being attacked. The case had gone cold for months until the February 14th episode of WWE Smackdown. Smackdown General Manager Nick Aldis revealed new footage which showed Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez lurking around the scene as Cargill was loaded into an ambulance. Naomi and Bianca Belair said they would be headed to Raw to deal with things. Cargill and Belair were the reigning WWE Women's Tag Team Champions at the time of the attack. Naomi took over for Cargill and has defended the titles alongside Belair. Now, last night we saw NXT announcer Vic Joseph fill in for Joe Tessitore. Fans tuned in to Friday's edition of SmackDown, expecting to hear the familiar voice of Joe Tessitore, but in Tessitore's typical seat at the Blue Brand's commentary booth sat none other than the voice of NXT Vic Joseph. Wade Barrett announced his new broadcasting co-host in the beginning moments of SmackDown, and while Joseph acknowledged that he would not replace Tessitore's unique and experienced commentary voice, he was excited to be handling play-by-play commentary for Friday's episode of SmackDown. Any news about the circumstances behind Tessitore's absence are known. Of course, he's actually doing some boxing announcing this weekend. Now, if you wondered what's going on with the Alexa Bliss and Wyatt Sicks situation, well, maybe we've got some answers. Alexa Bliss appeared in a backstage segment with Nia Jax and Candice LeRae on the February 14th episode of SmackDown. During her appearance, the screen glitched with the Wyatt Sicks logo appearing along with footage of Alexa at the 2023 Royal Rumble, her last appearance before her return at the 2025 Royal Rumble. The glitch also showed a heel glove and a riddle that says, "Do you feel in charge?" and a silhouette of Uncle Howdy. Now, the Wyatt Sicks, Uncle Howdy, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, and Nikki Cross were moved to SmackDown, but they've yet to appear on the brand. Now, tensions continued between Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu on SmackDown last night. After losing the Tribal Combat match against Roman Reigns at the Raw Netflix premiere, Solo Sikoa was absent from WWE television for a number of weeks. During his time away, fellow Bloodline members Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga have essentially been doing their own thing, with Fatu in particular breaking out as a potential main eventer rather than being in the background to Sikoa. Last week's SmackDown ended with Sikoa's big return as he laid out Cody Rhodes after Rhodes and Jey Uso teamed up against Fatu and Tama Tonga to defeat them. Last night, Sikoa was on the show once again, with Fatu demanding to speak to him, wondering where he's been. Sikoa said he needed some time away, but he's fine now and ready to take over WWE, saying the only way they can do that is as a unit. Fatu didn't seem convinced and went to walk away, but Sikoa held him back and said, "I love you, Jacob," reminiscent of how Fatu himself would often proclaim, "I love you," solo throughout the past few months. Now, Fatu walked away after that, and of course, Sikoa did get involved in the main event of SmackDown. Unfortunately, there was more miscommunication in the Bloodline. We saw R-Truth compete on SmackDown last night for the first time since 2019, after accidentally angering Carmelo Hayes by not understanding his I'm him catchphrase. R-Truth competed in his first singles match on SmackDown since 2019 and lost to the former NXT champion. R-Truth did his best to channel the energy and moveset of his childhood hero John Cena, but it was to no use. Carmelo Hayes got the victory with nothing but net, his signature top rope leg drop across the back of the net. And finally, next week on SmackDown, several matches have been confirmed. WWE announced that Drew McIntyre will face Jimmy Uso next Friday on SmackDown. Plus, DIY, that being Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, will defend their WWE Tag Team Championships against Pretty Deadly's Elton Prince and Kit Wilson. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.